The Champions: Hercules, Black Widow, Angel, Ghost Rider, Iceman from Marvel Comics Group. This is number 6. Came out in June of 1976, I do believe. Yes, 1976, when comics were still only 25 cents. And yes, this is my copy that I got off the spinner rack low these many moons ago. And yes, that is tape that's on there. I don't get my comics to slab or anything. I get my comics to read, especially back then and still to this day. The Champions was a kind of a it came out of left field for me. I wasn't expected. I loved Marvel and DC's team books. I loved the Justice League of America over at DC, and the Legion of Superheroes. I got those comics, but I also loved, my favorite comic of all of them was the Avengers at Marvel, but I loved the Defenders as well. And then along came the Champions out of nowhere, and I instantly fell in love with it. And check this cover out. This is a Jack Kirby cover. Whenever he came back to Marvel, not only did he draw Captain America and the Eternals and Black Panther and Devil Dinosaur and all those books, he also did a lot of covers for books that he wasn't drawing, and this being one of them. I don't know how many other covers he did for the Champions, but he did this one, and this is the first issue I have. I used to have issues 1 and 2, but I don't know what happened to them. They've gone the way of the dodo many years ago. But I wanted to show you who's doing the art on the inside. This is the art of George Tuska, inked by none other than Vinnie Coletta. And normally, you know, I don't care for Vinnie's inks, especially on Jack Kirby, but I have to say, working over Tuska, they make a pretty good team. At least here they do. Maybe it was because Tuska, you know, was just given enough information in his pencils that, you know, Vince Coletta was not going to be erasing a lot of it like he did on Jack Kirby's stuff. I don't know if how loose of a penciler George Tuska was, but we can see that I think that they make a great pair. George Tuska was a really good artist. Been around since the golden age of comics, and one of the most highly sought after golden age artists. He worked on a lot of like superhero stuff. Drew a book called The Black Terror in the 1940s. Also did a non-superhero comic book that was like really popular called Crime Does Not Pay. I met George Tuska one time at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. This was not long before he passed, but he was still getting it, still doing commissions and stuff. And I happened to go up to his booth. He and his wife were there, and I just said thank you for all the many years of enjoyment that you've given, because I think it's important to do that. And he was one of my. I mean, he wasn't quite up there with Jack Kirby for me as a collector, but he was solid. Everything that he did was really, I mean, and you could study his comics, and they could teach you how to do superhero comics, at least the specific in your face Marvel way. He had it in spades. And he did work at DC as well after he left Marvel, and in the late 70s, early 80s, I guess it was. But here he was still on full swing at Marvel, doing a lot of Iron Man was his biggest thing there at Marvel. He did that for I don't know how many years, but he was the first Iron Man artist I remember seeing whenever I was a kid. I got several of those. I'll need to do a video about them. But he did some Avengers work. He did I think he did a little bit of everything at Marvel, but here I know he did at least 4 or 5 issues of this, maybe more. But his work, I always call it muscular muscular comic book work, because all of his all of it, especially a guy like Hercules. He's supposed to be all beefy and stuff, but he just had a way of drawing muscular superheroes in action, and that's what we get here. We get a lot of this type of stuff where it communicates exactly what it needs to communicate. Look at this. He just drew the guy that Thor. Good Lord, he drew the guy that Hercules is punching just in silhouette, and I think Hercules kind of had a thing for the Black Widow back then. So anytime that she was in danger or somebody that was close to her was in danger, he retaliated in kind, very strongly. And you can see he knocked him into that car. But this guy, I think he's wearing some kind of exoskeleton. It's gives him enhanced strength because he's picking up the car and throwing it. And here's another thing that they did back then that they don't really do now is there's a lot of thought balloons. Tony Isabella was the writer for this, and he was just doing what everybody else was doing. What if Doug Minch wrote this, or if Steve Englehart, or who else? Marv Wolfman, or some of the Jerry Conway. They all used the trope of the thought balloon, where the guy's not saying it out loud, but you can read his thoughts. And then so Hercules knocked this guy into this car because the guy over here had really did a number on her. Like her bodyguard, I think. Ivan was his name. He was always with her back then. But he's saying this, "Arg, even through my protective costume, I still felt that punch. I must have been mad to challenge such power. But I can't surrender to them. I may have killed that man who ran between the widow and myself. I've already lost my dream. I won't lose my freedom, too. Maybe this will hold Hercules off long enough for me to escape." And of course it doesn't work. This is what I call the George Tuska shoulder tackle. He used it in Iron Man many times where the character is leaning in with his shoulder, giving this like haymaker punch type thing. And that's, you see that pose a lot in comics drawn by George Tuska. And so here we're finishing up the action scene, and we're going into a little bit more quiet scene. But even whenever this is going on, he still frames it in such a way that it's dramatic. Even when the guy's taking off his mask and you see his face underneath here. Just really good stuff. Really solid. Not a huge amount of detail like a George Perez would put in or anything, but it gets the point across. And I think I read somewhere where Stan Lee said that whenever he put George Tuska on a book, the sales numbers always went up. So he had a lot of confidence in him and used him for a lot of stuff. Now Tuska is kind of a polar. Look there, where he's breaking through the wall, and he took the windowsill with him with his jetpack on, and he hit it so hard he shattered this guy's the I guess that's a security guard, or those are the cops. They were going to break in on him, and he shattered he literally tore his shirt up whenever he went through the wall. Anyway, what was I going to say? Tuska was a polarizing figure. I know some guys that cannot stand George Tuska. Here's another one he drew. He drew this Black Goliath too. So I guess he did that same time he was working on this. I know some guys that just cannot stand George Tuska for whatever reason. They just don't like his art. They don't cotton to it. And then I've got at least one good friend who loves him, who's like he's his favorite artist, and he's an artist himself that draws not exactly in this style, but very reminiscent of this era, of comics. Hey Hanny, I'm talking about you. But anyway, I like it. Like I said, he's not my exact favorite, but I won't. If I have a George Tuska comic, I'm going to read it, because he draws me in, and he knows how to tell a story. I never get confused by what he's putting down. And this ends, and he doesn't really go crazy with the panel. He uses a grid, whether it's 2 tiers or three tiers here. Pretty much standard, but he keeps the action going into everything he does is clear to my eyes. He knows how to tell a story and tell it well, especially this. Now this is cool because you don't really see him doing the action. You see the beforehand and the aftermath. Here he's grabbing this guy by the arm. Rampage, I think is his name. Yeah. He's getting this guy. Okay, so he's desperate here. He says the suit's components are burning out. It can't stand much more of this punishment. If I can just squeeze a few more seconds of flight out of the jetpack. Sorry, pal. And he's got, I don't know why, but the Angel, yeah, this is the Angel and the Iceman from the X-Men. They were like moonlighting, and they were part of the Champions. Later on, they became, they were in the Defenders together. So they were all over the place before they came back to the X-Men years later. So he clonked him on the head with, I keep calling him Thor, with Hercules' own like mallet. So that's wonder he didn't kill him there, hitting him with that. And he says, Hercules shall end this unfair battle with the least possible delay. So patow, and he knocked him into the wall. He said, he gave him an Irish whip into the turnbuckle. That's a wrestling term. I'm finished. The jetpack is hopelessly smashed. Again, this is him thinking this. He's not saying it out loud. The jetpack is hopelessly finished, but there's still some fuel left in it. And like I told him, so he throws the jetpack down. I'd rather die than choke. Go to prison. Hit the deck, people. And the dream is over. The future of Stuart Clark, I guess that's his name, ends with a bang and a whimper. We're done. There he is. He's like lying under all the rubble, but he's not. He's like in between. He got caught in the middle of it. And I don't know how. I don't know how it blew up. I guess he threw it, and the impact of it ignited the the fuel that was on the inside. I don't know, but anyway, that's a Champions issue for you. The next one that I have is issue number 11. Now this one is very important because it is the debut. This is a Gil Kane cover here, and it brings in Black Goliath, another character who I really liked a lot, who had his own series for a little while. I don't think it lasted very long, but it was coinciding with this, so they were trying to plug Black Goliath in with the Champions. I don't know if he ever actually became. I don't think he became an actual member of the team, but he was a guest star in several issues, and it began here. But what I really want to show you is the fact that this was the debut, not of the $6 million man. Anybody have that toy? I remember he was really tall. He was taller than the G.I. Joes of the time, and you could see through his the back of his head, like a magnifying glass or whatever. Anyway, this is the debut of none other than, well, it says here, introducing the pulse-pounding pencils of John Byrne, artist. So this is the very beginning. I don't know if this is John Byrne's first Marvel work. Maybe not. I don't know. He was doing Iron Fist around the same time, so maybe he did that before he did this, or did it coinciding with it. I'm not sure. This is still 1976 when it came out. Well, actually, here it says February 1977 issue. So I don't know if it came out in 76 or 70. I can't understand all of that, but it was around that time period. Yes, by this time they were already 30 cents. So I don't have any of the issues between this one and this one, but I do have this one. Yes, I have these taped together just so I can read them better. Yeah, you immediately see a difference in the art. This is inked by Bob Layton too, and the script is by Bill Mantlo. So they changed everybody working on the book from that other issue that I just read, and I like it. I like it a lot. This has a lot of the same tropes that John Byrne would use later on when he started drawing the X-Men, and then later on when he was doing Fantastic Four. But this, I can still see, John Byrne came from a company called Charlton Comics, and they were an well, not really, kind of, sort of, I guess. They were kind of like an independent company of their very own. They had their own distribution system, their own trucks that carried their comics from place to place. They had their own printing company. It was an all-in-one. They were in Derby, Connecticut, I think, is where they were located. And John Byrne, as well as a bunch of other guys like Jim Aparo and Joe Staten, a bunch of other guys got their start. Don Newton got their start at Charlton, and then worked their way up to Marvel or DC, whichever one. John Byrne landed at DC, and just well, we all know the rest of that story. But I just love the way he drew. You see a lot of X-Men type the poses that he has, that famous pose where he's like suspended in air with one leg out and one leg cocked on the knee. And again, I called George Tuska a muscular artist. I could say the same thing for John Byrne, especially in this era. He used a lot of round. He was a very round. He used a lot of round shapes, a lot of rounded lines, and that was a call. I remember whenever he was doing Space 1999 at Charlton, he used a lot of these same drawing techniques whenever he was over there, but it really served this extremely well. He did an Ant-Man, like a 2 issues Marvel Spotlight, I think, and it was the first Scott Lang Ant-Man, and the work looks almost identical to this in that book. So they must have been doing that at the same exact time. And so it's been so long since I've read this. I don't know what all's going on. Or they're talking about Black Goliath, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not Henry Pym. And they're having little ghost images of Henry Pym, and that's Hawkeye there, Clint Barton, whenever he became a Goliath there for a little while. And then it shifts to Arizona, and we got Johnny Blaze out riding on his skull cycle, and then he's turning into Ghost Rider because he's got a stampede coming his way. Ran over his bike, so he had to create he said, they're running blind, panicked, and my flaming head isn't going to make them any calmer. My real bike's squashed, flatter than a flapjack. Okay. Only chance is to whip up a fast flame cycle and hightail it out of here by riding up the side of the canyon wall. So he created this out of, like, I guess, the hellfire or whatever. Hey man, it's comics. And then I don't know what all's going on here. It's okay, so they caused a landslide, and there's his bike completely totaled, and he runs afoul of the locals, and then there's Hawkeye and Two Gun Kid. I remember he went to the past, and Two Gun Kid came back with him. That was in the Avengers that happened, and he came back to 1976 with Hawkeye, and they had adventures there for a while, and but I'm mostly showing you this. Excuse me. I'm mostly showing you this so you can see the early artwork of John Byrne and just how nice. Excuse me, how nice it was. I got the hiccups, so you can see how nice it was. I just really blown away by it as a kid whenever I first saw this. And again, this is the comic that I picked up off the Spinnerack's Warlord Ka, and they did this by that's a Zipatone, and they cut it out and placed it down on the paper. Same with here. He probably drew it in pencil and then put the and it's all over the place. He's using it everywhere. It's probably Bob Layton that did all that, because he would do a lot of that same type of stuff on Iron Man whenever he was inking John Romita Jr. and then whenever he was doing the pencils and inks on his own. This guy reminds me of a character in DC that fought Hawkman all the time called Shadow Thief. He's like flat. So anyway, like a shadow. But anyway, just really good stuff. Very emotive, emotive faces. Look at that. I think he's being possessed by this thing or whatever, and is trying to escape it. So, and of course, it ends on a cliffhanger with the blinking stilt man coming to attack the Black Goliath here, and that's how it ends. And then that's it. That's all. I don't have any more issues of the actual Champions comic, but I do have this. This was a collection of stories, and it starts up whenever that issue was issue number 12, and this starts with that issue was issue 11. This is issue 12, and it starts with Giant Man fighting Stilt Man, who he's the same size as Black Goliath. I thought he was just a regular sized guy that had these stilts that could make him lift up. Kind of a crazy power that he has. But here, it looks like he's the same exact size as Black Goliath. I don't know. It's a comic book. Just don't think about it. Over here, that's another thing. I don't know if Byrne ever did any covers. This is Dave Cockrum over here that did this. I don't know who inked it, but. Yeah, that's definitely Dave Cockrum cover there. But anyway, this is really cool. It's a double-page spread. Look at that. That is so cool. And again, see what I'm saying about this rounded art that he does. I'm gonna have to flip through here quick because I'm running out of time. I'm trying to keep it under 30 minutes. And so there he goes. He landed, and he's see, now he's the same size as them. So whatever keeps the drama going and the excitement and everything working for you. It's cool the way he shows his power working, and just really cool stuff. It's cool seeing it in this with this brighter color. Some people don't like that. Some people like the newsprint, and I do too. But I don't mind this at all. I think this Bob Layton still inking this. Yep. Sure is. So they make a great combo on this book before, and then look, this is like shades of not the Yeti, what was it, Sasquatch, that came into Alpha Flight later, same color and everything, and so very cool stuff. I guess Dave Cockrum was doing all the covers. That's Dave Cockrum pencils and Al Milgram inks on this cover here. But Byrne on the side, look how he's doing this. He's using the Kirby crackle and delineating the faces with that. So cool. There they are, fighting the Yetis or the Sasquatches or whatever they are. Just really cool stuff. He's got a lot of panels on each page. Something that he would kind of ditch later on. There's his patented robots right there. I love the way he drew robots, starting with his Raj 2000 character back in the backup strips in E-Man comic I love. Then I'll have to do a separate video on one of these days because I love that comic. But here he's got the robots double teaming Black Goliath here. And there's a fire guy that has Kirby crackle. He was using all the stuff that he loved to create his own story. There's like a green demon character. Just really nice stuff. So I'm just going to go through it pretty quickly. She was like a Russian Dark Star, I think was her name. She was a Russian addition to the Champions. I really love this pose right here. That is so cool. That could be like a corner box illustration or whatever. That's really nice as well too. He was using a lot of experimental lighting, in here. Hey, he gets a new costume with a big C, I guess that's like the Champions logo right there. Very cool. I like his look. All right, giant bees is what they're fighting here. Oh, they're fighting that swarm guy. Well, here's that guy again, the one that George Tuska was drawing, but it's not the guy, it's just the suit. The suit come to life and started attacking him. There's another one of his robots that you see a lot later on. This is just kind of a like a test drive for a lot of the stuff that he would do later on. This is a character called Swarm, and he's a humanoid character, but he's made up of a bunch of swarming bees that he can control. Pretty crazy. And you know what? I was just thinking about something. The only character in the Champions that had an ongoing title at this time of their own was Ghost Rider. Nobody else. Black Widow was starring in Daredevil, but I think she had already gotten off that book by the time the Champions came around. These guys were from the X-Men, and then Hercules, he was just floating around mostly in Thor, but this is the first time that he actually became, I guess, the quote-unquote leader of a group. So anyway, just really cool stuff that from early stuff from John Byrne. Highly recommend it. Look the way he drew that skeleton. That's really cool. Oh, it's the Swarm guy, and all the bees left him, and he's just a skeleton underneath. So it's like the original Skeletor, right? Except he don't have any muscles. He's just all skeleton. All right, now we go back to the George Tuska, but that I'm going to skip some of these because there's one, like the last issue. This was cool too. This is Bob Hall art here on this story, and it's kind of a continuation of what was that other book that they had, the supervillain team up thing, and this was had Magneto and Dr. Doom in it. So and the Hulk, it looks like it had a little bit of everybody, but that's not what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you is this. Was the last issue of the Champions that came out, issue number 17. But I want you to see who did the art. We had an issue that George Tuska drew, and then we had a bunch of issues that John Byrne drew. Well, on this one, on the last issue of the Champions, George Tuska was the pencil artist, and John Byrne was the ink artist. He was the inker, and I really like this combo. I wish they would have done more. That's some really cool looking stuff. Very almost rushed, but not really. He was laying down the and I don't know if he was using a pen or brush. I think he probably both for a lot of this, but I can see George Tuska shining through this, but I can also see John Byrne in this, and I think they make a pretty good match. But sadly, this is the only one that we get to see because this was the end of the series, and John Byrne would go from here to, I guess he went on to X-Men. I know he did a couple of issues of Luke. That's wild right there, where the Sentinels were just completely torn apart. I know he did a couple of issues. This is later on. This is Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. Our pal Sal Buscema drew this, and it's Return of this Rampage guy. But I wanted to mostly talk to you about the Champions here. So anyway, that's what I have of the Champions. What do you have any fond memories of the Champions? They didn't last very long, and they've probably been brought back a couple of times. I think they have, but I don't have any of that stuff. That's some of the more recent stuff, and I don't have any of that. But I remember liking them very fondly back during this time, and I'm glad that I have this book that collects all of the John Byrne issues, because he was a very early favorite of mine, and still love his stuff. I still go back and reread his Marvel and DC stuff that he did. I think that he's done a lot for the comic book industry. I met him one time in Austin, Texas, doing a signing. He was doing the Next Men at the time, and I had just started Silver Sable and the Wild Pack. Oh God, this is going back to '92, I think. And he couldn't have been nicer to me. I'd heard so many stories about, oh, he's a curmudgeon and he's this and that and the other, but I couldn't have asked for a nicer time to share. It was a store signing that we did, and I just had a blast with him. So hadn't seen him since. But anyway, that's about it for me. Tell me what you think about these videos. I'm going to continue doing them because I have a passion for this type of thing. If you dig it, let me know. If not, let me know that too, and I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.